Hello. Can you hear me? Sorry, I just have my cameras off. Hello.
So welcome everybody.
Yeah, right.
Just waiting for a few more people to come in.
Yeah.
If you wish to introduce yourself as you come in, that's fine as well.
I think that's most people in. If you want to kick off, Colton.
Okay, thank you for that. Welcome everybody. My name is Carlton Romain and I'm the coordinator for the Black and Green Ambassadors Programme. How are you all doing today? I hope you're well. Just before we start, I think it might be a good idea for everybody just to introduce themselves and just briefly tell us what interests you, what excites you about the project. I also think that I'd like to also welcome you all for this online event. This is a chance for you to meet the current ambassadors, find out more about the roles that we're recruiting for, and also for you to ask questions. So please do ask questions. This session, as it said on the presentation, will be recorded so that it can be shared later for those who can't make this meeting. Please feel free, as I say again, to ask questions relating to the roles. And also we will be having a session a bit later, Q&A at the end. And also, can you also keep muted before and after you've spoken, just so that the sound quality stays quite good and also disruptive noise. Okay, a quick overview of what we're going to be covering in this session. We'll be opening with a video about the programme. We'll also be covering brief context of the programme by Sandra and Vicky. We'll meet our current ambassadors, Roy, Olivia, Nazia, and also Vicky will discuss how you can apply and the application process. Again, importantly, the Q&A, which is going to be really, really good. So please submit questions in the chat box or raise your hand, and we'll try and cover as many questions as possible. Okay, so let's get started by introducing our three current ambassadors. And no, we're going to have the program film, first, and then we'll look at introducing our three current ambassadors and also the project team director, Sandra Gordon, Jim Radit, and Vicky Woolley, Bristol Green Capital Partnership, who will be with you next. You'll hear from them next. Okay. And the event will run from about 6:30 to 7:30. Okay, Vicky?
Are we on to the video?
Yes.
Okay.
About a year after being involved in the Green and Black project, I signed up to get an allotment.
The Black and Green Ambassadors have helped me to see my unconscious bias and how it feeds into environmental communications.
It was a really interesting opportunity to talk to other people interested in green issues.
The Black and Green Ambassadors project has been running for a couple of years now. We've spent that whole time trying to have conversations and just start that little seed of awareness and grow a space of equality and diversity within the environmental movement.
The Black and Green project is so important for getting the voices of young people, of black people, working class minorities, ethnic minorities in Bristol and in the UK onto getting their voice onto the agenda of the environmental movement, of climate justice.
born some time ago, actually, and I know I was in some of those early conversations as well, talking about how exclusive, race and class exclusive, the environmental movement was.
They've got me and so many others excited about environmental issues, and they've modelled what leadership on these can look like in our city.
For me, it represents something much bigger than whether or not more black and brown folk end up being able to access the outdoors. It's about who owns the land and who owns the microphone to talk about things.
We got to talk about some of the obstacles we face here, trying to make some of our green spaces and open spaces more inclusive and diverse.
There's really played a role linking up with community radio to make that connection between the movement and the voices and the passions in our community.
It's also been about creating spaces and platforms where we can make new leaders in that environment and in that sector that will open doors for others to also feel welcomed and feel like they're represented.
For me, it has been life-changing, and I cannot wait to see who comes through after. I can't wait to see you new guys and what you do in the world and what it does for you. Black and Green Project.
I'm interested in the environment and making things better, and that's what led me to the Black and Green Ambassadors programme, which is all about connecting, leading and celebrating diverse community action. So it's about celebrating things that people already do that are good for the environment, teaching them other things that they could do, connecting people so that the impact can be bigger, and making kind of climate change and climate action understandable for everyone and something that everyone can get involved with.
All three of us ambassadors all do a piece of research work. Mine is on urban green spaces and how they affect how people feel and sort of their mental health as well. And I'm really looking at how green spaces, so parks, places where you can be outdoors away from sort of really congestion and buildings and city life. Wanting to speak to people who might not normally fit of the idea of how we think people being outdoors.
I'm Asia Yusuf, and in my project I'm targeting BME community whose English is their first language, and most of them, they are recently arrived to the UK. When I say recently, I mean like in maybe 10 years ago. Still, I feel like they are not born here. They have a lot in their culture, in their heritage. They have a lot of sustainable practices. They do it without knowing what does sustainability mean. So I think that's a chance for them to know they have something to contribute.
Thank you for that. I'm going to introduce you to both Vicky and Sandra, who will be moving on next about the briefing. But as I say, please introduce yourself, say who you are, and also your interests as well. Okay, Sandra, Vicky.
Thanks, Carlton. Hi, everyone. I'm Vicky, Operations and Project Manager at Bristol Green Capital Partnership. So a quick bit of history about the project. So the project originated in 2015 when Bristol was the European Green Capital, but where many felt excluded from the mainstream green agenda. And a series of workshops and debates at that time, led by Ujima Radio, highlighted this lack of diversity in the environmental movement, and particularly within the environmental leadership and decision-making forums of the city. So this led to the formation of the Green and Black Ambassadors Pilot Project, a partnership by Ujima Radio, Bristol Green Capital Partnership and the University of Bristol, where the two founding ambassadors, Jazz and Zakia, who you just saw in the video, delivered a series of events, workshops and radio shows to explore and address these issues of exclusion and environmental inequality, all the while being offered support, training and mentorship to enhance their own professional and leadership development. You can read more about this journey in the pilot project online. So at the start of last year, we were delighted to announce that with thanks to support from the National Lottery Community Fund, we could extend and upscale this pioneering programme. So Asia, Olivia and Roy started in post last September as year one ambassadors in a 3-year programme. And since then, they have been busy delivering on the programme's mission to connect, empower and celebrate diverse leadership and community action on environmental issues in Bristol and beyond, challenging perceptions, creating new opportunities and working towards ensuring the environmental movement is inclusive and representative of all communities. So what does that actually entail? You'll hear a little bit more from the ambassadors shortly, but to give you an idea of the programme structure, each year a cohort of ambassadors are paid for 2 days a week and invited to lead and deliver a varied programme of activities. And these activities include producing a monthly radio show on Ujima Radio, delivering at least 2 community workshops over the year, and each ambassador developing and undertaking a community-based research project looking into a specific issue around diversity, inclusion and environmental inequality. In addition to these core deliverables of the programme, ambassadors are supported to participate in key city region forums, different meetings and events, to undertake speaking engagements at relevant events locally, regionally and even nationally. And they're supported to engage with programme sponsors and supporters, for example, attending one of their board meetings or speaking at an event. The ambassadors are also supported to play an active role in the evaluation of the programme itself. So taking a role in gathering feedback from participants, documenting their activity, keeping a reflective log and inputting into an end of year annual review to share learnings from the programme and share insights in an end of year event. And we also have a website, which you may have seen, where ambassadors are invited to share their learnings through written blogs and in social media channels. So this is the sort of outward facing engagement programme, which is led by ambassadors and informed by their particular own personal interests, skills, experiences and passions. But all the activities should work towards the overall programme mission and also enhance the professional and leadership development of the ambassadors themselves, which brings me on to the development aspect of the programme. So whilst delivering these core activities, ambassadors can benefit from a tailored professional and leadership development programme. This will include skills training on radio production and broadcasting, research methods from my colleagues at the University of Bristol, public speaking, social media skills and community engagement, as well as each ambassador being matched with a mentor to help them set goals, think about longer term aspirations, and really to help them navigate their way through the very wide range of opportunities that are available to them during the year and afterwards. As I mentioned at the start, this programme is a partnership between Ujima Radio and Bristol Green Capital Partnership. So although the contract for the role is with Ujima Radio, the support offered to the ambassadors is through both of these organisations. So the team at Ujima Radio, including Sandra as strategic lead and Carlton as ambassadors coordinator, offers line management to the ambassadors, regular appraisals, training and broadcast support, practical support with organising events and activities, and regular check-ins to ensure that ambassadors are receiving the support they need in terms of training and development. The team at Bristol Green Capital Partnership, which includes myself as project manager and Clara as project coordinator, we support evaluation and reporting on the project, for example, to our funders at the National Lottery, programme administration and managing enquiries, and management of the website and the social media communication channels. We also have a really active and engaged steering group who are there throughout to offer guidance, advice and support throughout the year. And ambassadors participate in our quarterly programme steering group meetings, which guide the development and direction of the programme. Importantly, the programme team at Ujima Radio and Bristol Green Capital Partnership are there throughout the year to support ambassadors in their work practically. For example, managing bookings or technical admin on a Zoom event, printing feedback forms, finding a venue, promoting activities through social media. But we're also there in terms of utilising our wider networks as organisations to facilitate connections and opportunities to support the ambassadors' development and enhance the impact. For example, helping you make a connection with a community group, introducing you to a technical expert on air quality, or arranging for an ambassador to present to a city board or policy forum. So that's an overview. I'm sure there'll be more questions at the end, and I'm going to hand over to Sandra, who's going to say a little bit more about some of those opportunities and impacts of an ambassadorship.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you for giving some background to the programme and what you can actually expect as an ambassador. So as you can imagine, we started this work last year, and it was a really pivotal time in the world when the focus went firmly to both climate and social justice. which are two key elements of the Black and Green programme. So one of the key aims of this is the opportunity for our ambassadors to have access to spaces and conversations around social and environmental issues. And climate change especially has traditionally been seen as very white and very middle class. And although now it's getting a lot more traction with white students, young white students, but the diverse voices are still excluded or forgotten. We've seen our ambassadors being offered positions on boards to attend as guest speakers, sit on funding panels, but to name a few. We're also receiving more requests than we can potentially fulfill, which is great news, of course, and a fantastic endorsement to what we're doing. The ambassadors also played a key role in engaging the Metro mayoral and Bristol mayoral candidates with community priorities and issues of climate and social justice during the recent elections. We're hosting a big event as part of Bristol's Festival of the Future City in October, and the ambassadors have also joined the city's COP26 steering group and also been invited to join Bristol One City Environmental Board. Very quickly within the project, we saw this as being more than just about Bristol and the work we're doing right here. This is part of a much bigger movement, in some ways leading that movement nationally and globally as well. We have three amazing ambassadors this year, each focusing, as you've heard, on three key relevant issues in the city. Longer term, it has potential to be a much wider national global ambassador network. And we're hoping that that will give a great opportunity for connections and for us to share experiences, not just in terms of what's happening in Bristol, but also nationally and globally as well. So as you can see, the project has a lot of potential. It started from quite a small seed and it's certainly blossomed into a huge tree, which is fantastic. And it's now an opportunity for you to get a bit more up close and personal with our three ambassadors. So just like to introduce Asia, Roy, and Olivia. And I'm going to be asking them a few questions about their experience in the role during the last 10 months. And I can't believe it's 10 months already. Time has literally flown by. There's going to be an opportunity for you to ask them some questions as well after the next segment, which is going to be about how you can actually apply for the role. But please do post in the chat any questions you may have while we're speaking to the ambassadors, and we'll certainly pick them up as part of the Q&A session towards the end. So ambassadors, what an incredible and unprecedented 10 months it's certainly been for all of us. And I just want to take a look back at your journey. So starting off with Asia, so what did becoming a Black and Green ambassador mean to you? And why do you feel that this program is so unique?
Hi, everyone. I'm Asia, one of the Black and Green ambassador. Thank you, Sandra. I think it's the first thing is to discover a lot of side of myself. I haven't discovered before in joining Black and Green ambassador. I found it's the right platform for me because it's like a combination between the community work and the environmental work. So I've been working with the community more than 7 years in other issues, but this is my first time to engage with the community and environment work. It's really nice opportunity for me to develop, pushing myself out of my comfort zone and to feel like I'm a part of the solution. I'm from this community, but still I can be a part of the solution and can be the link between the community and engage them in environmental issues. And I believe it is not like important issue for most of the communities, from Black and Brown communities, and it's not in their priorities. So yeah, I think challenging that perception as well, it's vital for me in my work. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you for that. Same question to you, Roy. So, you know, what's it really kind of meant to you, and what's so unique about the program?
What's unique about the program? I think it I think there's something about it's sort of just positivity. It's sort of that it kind of feels like it's really sort of engaging with difficult things, but doing it in a way which seems to sort of really increase the energy of both those who are kind of working within it, but also everyone it kind of touches. And I think that's why it got such an amazing reception when it kind of relaunched last year. It was kind of, I think, a moment where everyone was struggling, and suddenly it was this sort of thing that people could look to in a sort of, it was kind of affirming all maybe sort of the best bits of the community and the best bits of the city, and actually sort of, I think that's why it got people excited. What did it mean to me? It's funny, I heard about the programme. So I'm a Londoner, and I moved to Bristol 7 years ago or thereabouts. And I think I heard about what was then the Green and Black programme, like in the first 3 months or something being here. And I remember going, I would love to be a part of that. And then the programme kind of went fallow for a little bit, and I didn't hear much about it. So actually then getting to be a part of it has really meant something quite profound to me, I think. And I would say to anyone, who's interested in applying, of kind of get to just be part of a really sort of wonderful family of people. Like there's us ambassadors, yes, but there's also all the other people who are seeing on this call in terms of the people who are supporting there and sort of holding you. And even though it's like challenging, like as he was saying, you do get pushed out of your comfort zone, especially when you get thrown onto a radio show like a few weeks after joining. But there is always just a group of people there kind of wishing you the best and sort of holding you. So yeah, it's meant a lot to me. And I think I probably won't be able to fully answer that probably for another 5 years. And I'll be like, oh, that's what it really meant to me. So yeah, that's me. That's me.
Oh, great. Love that. You weren't pushed onto the radio. We helped you on gently.
Well, all right. Gently thrown. How's that?
Thank you for that. Olivia.
Yes, so I was too busy listening to what Asima and Roy were saying, and I haven't formulated my own thought. I think what's really unique about the programme is, so I work in the environmental sector in my day job, and it was so different to be in a space talking about the environment with people who look like me and have similar lived experience than me. And I think you can, just because I've always worked in the environmental sector, you kind of forget that that's out there, even as a person of colour. So to be held in that space and just be able to say things that I have on my mind all the time in a lot of meetings, but can't necessarily have the power or the authority within my organisation to say. So just be able to kind of say those things, not worry about how it's received, know that people have that same lived experience and can draw from that same knowledge is really special, and it's made me much more confident. Somebody I knew from my old job, I used to work at Lush, now works in Bristol as well at the City Council, called Ian, and we met up and he was like, Olivia, you're so confident all of a sudden. What happened? You weren't like this. You weren't like this 2 years ago when I knew you. So I think that speaks to what the programme has done, because now I just say what I think and I don't worry about the consequences, which may that be a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. So then I think, what was the other half of the question? What it's meant to me? And I think I've kind of answered that in my first response to what's unique about it. I think it's made me, I was on the journey, I'm an engineer by trade, and I was on that journey of realizing that kind of the maths and science isn't everything in climate change. There's so much more, but it's definitely sped up that learning curve for me. So I think it's kind of realigned my trajectory a bit, and it's just allowed me to get to know an amazing group of people and not be quite so scared by the idea of being on the radio, and actually really enjoy that. So realizing that, I have something to say and people would like to say it, well, like to hear what we have to say. I think that's, not everyone has that privilege, so that's been really amazing.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, some great feedback in terms of what's so special about the project. So thank you for that, ambassadors. Now this question, I know it's going to be quite challenging, only because you do so much. The role itself is incredibly varied and the opportunity is vast. But can you provide perhaps a brief summary of some of the things you did, or how would you describe the day, a day in the life of the ambassador? So Roy, I'm going to get you to start with this one.
Okay, I'm gonna go with your first part first, which was some of the things that I've done and we've done. So obviously the monthly radio show, I think you know, that we sort of were handheld a little bit, and that very first one I think in like the September, and then we jumped full in October. So that's always a part of that is a part of your kind of days, as it were, because obviously there's stuff to do before you actually get on the microphone. So there's things to think about in terms of the preparation and who you might interview and the music and all that kind of stuff. But other things that I've done, so speaking at quite a lot of events, so whether that's like conferences, and obviously this is all during COVID time, so everything for me has been virtually, apart from a couple of things. But yeah, speaking at the National Lotteries Conference and London Climate Action Week, chairing some stuff, so chairing a panel at the Communicate conference, I think last year. So yeah, just having to get very comfortable with kind of public speaking, even though it's on virtual platforms, but sort of just getting into a groove of it. And it does, for those who might be hesitant, it does get easier with practice. Writing, so we've done some writing for different publications and for the new website that's just gone up. And then sort of really quickly on sort of the day in the life piece, I mean, it is super varied. The radio show is probably the one sort of constant drumbeat that kind of goes throughout the whole thing, because that's always sort of a part of your month. But then more recently, because of my research project, I'm going out to interview people in parks. So just walking up to people with a sound recorder and saying, "Would you like to chat to me?" It's been part of my days. Doing quite a lot of there's lots of emails to answer, because there are a lot of people who are really interested. And I think Vicky talked about how the fact that there's almost too many opportunities, so we have to actually turn down things in terms of that. So it is super varied, and I think that's probably one of the great strengths about it, is that it's not just sort of sitting down at a computer and doing sort of things from your head. It is really about going out and being able to chat with people and developing yourself as a leader. So yeah, that's from me.
Brilliant, thank you, Roy. Azia, what's been kind of tell us about some of the things that you've been involved in, in a day in the life of Azia on the project.
Thank you. As I said, all of us have been participating in a lot of events, like speaking in some events. I spoke in Green Mingle, I think me and you, Sandra, I think one of the Green Mingles, and then participating to be like a member of the panel with other organizations as well, and running our workshops, and to be part of the workshop as well, attending many trainings. And I think that's a positive side, working from home during lockdown. You've been able to attend so many events, so no need to travel from one place to another place. So I think that's one of the positive sides during this lockdown. So yeah, attending a lot of trainings, my meeting with my mentor as well. So yeah, busy, and I agree with Roy, the variety of the activities. I think make it like very joyful for us. The radio show, preparing for the radio show, recording, which is so much fun. Working with those two guys, that's all the stuff that I participate on. And what was the other part of the question? Sorry.
Yeah, I think you've covered it. It was just really a day in the life of an ambassador. So I think you've covered quite a few areas that you get involved in. So thanks, Azia. Olivia.
So yeah, I would echo all the things that Roy and Azia have said. There's some specific events and chairing panels that I've been at. So my project is around clean air. So I've been quite involved with conversations with the Environment Agency, both part of workshops designing clean air strategy for Bristol and Bath, and then chairing events around both clean air and State of the Environment address I was lucky enough to talk at last week. So that's been kind of my a solid connection that's been quite regular. I think we all work on a Thursday, so that's our proper day in the life of Black and Green, as opposed to a bits here and a bit there. So those Thursday mornings are really important for us because we get to catch up in person and bounce ideas around. And that's really important for the three of us to have that time together and that space to do things. As I said, my project's around clean air, and I've been working quite a lot with Eastside Community Trust to do that because I'm based in East Bristol. So I've been going along to some of their events, and that's been a really great part. And those conversations and just having those conversations. So I've gone to some of their climate pop-ups in Rawnsley Park, and they have Felix Road Adventure Playground, which is East Bristol. So I've been spending a lot of time talking to children around clean air, which I didn't think I would do at the beginning of the project, but that's been really exciting. So yeah, I think that's some of the more exciting bits that we do. And I also think it's just so being in the radio station as well. So the people who you meet and talk to in the process of being in Ujima, and then the connections that they have is really important as well. So I don't know, naively sign myself, I'm doing breakfast radio this week with SJ as well. So you get into different places and you get to know different people. So I think that's an exciting thing as well, that I'll be up. Luckily it's different times because it's COVID, so it's only an 8 o'clock start as opposed to a 6 o'clock start, so I can't complain.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Olivia. And you've touched on the research programs, and that's really a key element of what the ambassadors do within this program. And all the ambassadors, if you've heard, they've selected one key project that they're all focusing on. So it'd be good to hear a little bit more information about your projects, and also importantly, how people can still get involved. So Olivia, I don't know if you want to continue because you've already started talking about your project.
Yeah, definitely. So my project is around clean air and community solutions for clean air. So focusing on that action and solutions piece, because we've talked a lot about talking to people, and conversations are great, but kind of conversations and voices without turning that to action isn't where we want to sit. So that action piece is really important. So I live by the M32, so clean air is really, or dirty air is really obvious to the community. And it's something that disproportionately affects the most disadvantaged in society, may that be poorer or different diverse groups of people. So I'm just talking to people about where they go to breathe. So I'm asking people to take a photo of where they go to breathe, how they feel when they're there, and what they feel that they think they need to breathe. So you can get involved in that if you'd like to by doing that and sending it to my email or online, which will be on the website. So I'm sure the link will be shared in the chat. And then I'm also talking slightly more in depth with people. So a one-on-one interview in a place that they go to breathe around what that looks like for them. And finally, I'm talking to community groups as well around the same thing. So a big part of Black and Green is just about connecting people. So in a year, I can't set up a group of people of any more strength or diversity than already exists in the city. So I'm just going to existing groups who might not think about the environment at all, might have never thought of clean air, just to see what they think. And then I'm bringing all those ideas together and presenting back to the community and the people I've spoken to and saying, this is what I've heard, this is what you'd like, how can we or should we take that forward? And I think that's one of the biggest things we learned throughout our workshops and our training is, even though we're members of a diverse community, we still can't just decide what we want to do and know what's best. So just the really big part has been listening to what you're being told and adjusting your journey accordingly. So having that flexibility as well. So yes, that's me, and that's the way you can get involved if you'd like to.
Brilliant, Olivia, and an amazing research project that you're doing, and like I said, so vital right now, especially with everything that's going on. So brilliant. Thank you. Roy, share a little bit of your project with us.
Yeah, so mine, I can't remember if this is official title, but Park Lives is kind of what I've called it in my head. So the idea is to tell the untold stories of Bristol green spaces. So my idea is, or what I'm doing is interviewing people who have a green space that's meaningful to them in Bristol, whether that's just a park or just a small space that they kind of go and have a story to tell about it. And my idea is to take those audio interviews that I'm doing and turn them into a podcast series. And sort of the underlying thing I think I'm trying to push is to sort of maybe complicate the stories and narratives we have around what it means to be British and outdoors. Although I think it's still very much, or the conception is still, you know, about hiking and rambling, which are fantastic things to do and you should do them. But that in fact, there are lots of other stories and other cultural perspectives that kind of get missed out in those conversations. So whether it's, yeah, and someone who's really into like urban growing, or somebody just like takes a walk and or plays football or whatever it might be, and those are equally valid sort of forms of being outdoors, and they have amazing benefits for, you know, our mental health and our well-being. And yet I think they kind of sometimes get lost amongst sort of the shinier and maybe more traditional ways of being outdoors. So yeah, I'm going to be going out, and I've already done a few of them, but talking to people from Bristol's Black and Brown communities about what their green spaces mean to them. And then working also with some artists, so with some street artists and poets, to then take those words and hopefully create something amazing for them to also kind of go out and inspire cities and take it in all kinds of different directions. So yeah, that's my project.
Roy, can people still get involved? Are you still looking for people to interview?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'll do is I'll put an email address in the chat, and also Olivia, if it's appropriate, you think I could put the survey that we have in the chat. So there's a survey that me and Olivia sort of combined our questions from both our projects into one. So yeah, it'd be fantastic if you could fill the survey out, but also if you're interested in having a chat with me as one of those people, I'll put an email address that you can contact me on in the chat box.
All right, brilliant, thank you. And Azia, if you share a little bit about your research project as well.
Yeah, sure. So my project is to know more about any sustainable practices from people from different backgrounds, to share their culture, their heritage, and if there is any sustainable practices. I did already 2 workshops. We have a lot of participants, so we learn from each other. And the main idea is to, I think it's very easy for everyone to talk about his culture and his heritage. And that's like first step for them to be engaged in environmental movement by sharing these practices. And from my family side, I found that my family, and especially all the generation in my family, practices like a lot of sustainable practices, like using reusable bag long time ago in their shopping. They didn't use like any plastic bag. So that's kind of sustainable practices. They do it without knowing what is the sustainability mean. So yeah, and I said to myself, definitely that's something it can found in any other cultures. So it's opportunity for people from different backgrounds. And in my project, I targeted people from Black and Brown community. English is not their first language. Be like accessible for them to attend this workshop, and they feel they can contribute in their community language. That's the main idea. And then to gather all these stories and all these practices to share it with the participant and the wider community, to be inspired for other people if they would like to do it. And we can see if we can, it can be applicable in Bristol or in the UK as general. Yeah, I did the 3 workshops already, but I'm very happy if any one would like to join or to have a conversation with me. I will put my email here, and I'm happy to be contacted by anyone.
Brilliant. Thank you, Azia. Again, another really valuable knowledge sharing, because as you say, there's so many cultural practices that we're already doing. Some of it gets renamed. So I think it's a great way to kind of share knowledge across cultures as well. So thank you for that. Right, we're going to move to Vicky, who's going to explain how you can actually apply to be the next Black and Green ambassadors, and then after we'll move to have an opportunity to ask any of the ambassadors any questions that you may have. So there's still time to post some questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand. So I'll hand you over to Vicky, hear all about how you can apply.
Thank you, Sandra. So I'll just recap on some of the information about applying. Hopefully you've all had a chance to read and look through the application pack so far. So in the application pack that you will have seen online, we've highlighted in that what we feel are some of the key qualities and skills that we're looking for in ambassadors, and the questions at each stage of the application will reflect these. The first stage is a written application. So we'll ask you a series of questions about your motivation for the role and your skills and experience. And you can fill in the responses on the Microsoft Word form and email that back. Or if you prefer, you can record your answers to those questions in a video just on your mobile phone and email that back to us as well. And we also ask that you send us a copy of your CV or just a simple page outlining any experience that you feel is relevant. And finally, please do send back a copy of our equalities monitoring form as well. The links for all of these forms are available on our website and need to be emailed to apply@blackandgreenambassadors.co.uk by the 3rd of August. Based on these applications, we'll shortlist candidates and we'll invite those candidates who are shortlisted to attend an online workshop followed immediately by a short interview with the panel. And that will be later on in August, week beginning 9th or week beginning the 16th. So the online workshop that we'll have will just be an informal opportunity for shortlisted candidates to present some of their ideas and undertake a problem-solving exercise in small groups. And then following that will be a short interview to ask a few final questions with an interview panel, including members of the programme team, a current ambassador and a member of the steering group. I hope that all doesn't sound too intimidating. The idea for the workshop is that it's going to be engaging and fun and a chance for the shortlisted candidates to have some interesting conversations and get a feel for the role. So as I say, they'll take place in one day, held online via Zoom later in August. When you do apply, if you have any access needs for the workshop and interview that would need to be met, or if you're unavailable on any dates in August, please do provide that information in your email to us as well. So that's everything. If there's any more questions, I'm sure that'll come up.
Oh, she's back. Are you back, Vicky? Yeah. So thanks for that. Like I said, if there's any questions anyone's got about the application process, again, feel free to ask us any questions. So we're moving to the next segment now, and it's your opportunity to ask any questions. So I'll hand over to Colton and Vicky.
Okay, yeah, as Sandra just said, thank you, Sandra, thank you, Vicky, and also the ambassadors for the update on what you do, the role within as an ambassador and their projects. So if any of you have some questions, I know one or two have been pinging around the chat room, but please, if you have any questions, you've heard about what the role entails, you've heard about the exciting projects, this is your opportunity now to ask specifically a certain person relating to any question you may have. I'm going to answer one quickly. There was a question that was muted there, stating that although who is this particular role for? The whole thing about the Black and Green Ambassadors is that it is Black and Brown participants. That's the objective in ensuring that the Black and Brown community is engaged and has a voice. So I know there was interest. I know from somebody who's Eastern European. What we do say is that we do have a voluntary support kind of network. So those people that are wishing to participate and volunteer and help with the work that we're doing, we're quite welcome to take your name and talk to you. And yes, we're always looking for others to support the ambassadors and the work that we're doing. Okay, so if we start with some questions now, please introduce your name and just a little bit of background about yourself as well. So if you put your hand up. Any questions for the ambassadors?
Hi, Carlton. I'm just going to come in there. We've had a few questions earlier in the chat. So one of the questions was, do you guys have any direct community actions, such as planting, say, plant 100 trees on an empty patch of land, or picking up plastic litter from a wood or a public park? Do any of the ambassadors want to pick up on that one?
Thank you, Vicky.
Unless Roy Rosia would prefer to. So at the moment we don't. I think our time as ambassadors has been limited by the majority of it being in COVID restrictions. I think a big part of what Black and Green is about is connecting and celebrating. So there are groups that are doing that already, and we use the networks that we have to promote and get more people involved in what's already existing. So as opposed to trying to build things that already happen, making different groups aware of what's already going on and doing that ourselves. For example, this morning I interviewed Judith from Flourishing in St Paul's, who is planting trees and plants around St Paul green spaces and reclaiming those as her own. And she's passionate about that and doing it herself. So I would rather spend my time promoting that than trying to build something from scratch myself. That's not to say that if it's not vital to your project or what you'd like to do, you couldn't do that yourself. Another thing, I go on, Eastside Community Trust has weekly litter picks, so I go along to those and take part and talk to people there. So it's using what already is going on. So that's we haven't right now, but you can if you'd like to when you're an ambassador.
Thank you, Olivia. Do we have another question, Vicky?
Yeah, we have another question in the chat. Are we thinking about focusing on businesses, government, white people who may have more capacity to respond, whereas communities of colour may have other priorities rightly? Anyone want to take that one?
Oh, that's a juicy one. Maybe that's all I've got to say. That's a juicy one. I think probably the answer is yes to all of the above in terms of engagement. I mean, we haven't had like a specific government like policy focus like that. That definitely hasn't been sort of like, oh, we will try and like, you know, lobby at that level. But again, I think the project is so broad that nothing is ruled out in terms of, you know, accessing people who maybe already have like inherent power and trying to sort of use those networks. And I think, you know, part of the beauty of the program is to do a bit of both the bottom up and the top down at the same time. To work with those Black and brown communities in Bristol, yes, and to recognise maybe the sort of the limited access to power sometimes they might have, but to catalyse that, but then to also, you know, and then get leaders from those communities, you know, us developed up, and so we sort of start to actually access some of that power, but then to also to the question who was asking the question, to then yes, also sort of leverage that and actually work with those communities who already have that ability to maybe make change that, you know, Black and brown communities are slightly limited in doing. So it's a bit of a waffly answer. And again, it sort of maybe speaks to the breadth of the program and in the fact that all things are possible. Like I say, we haven't focused on trying to sort of get lobbying sort of things happening in terms of policy changes. But for example, if you were an ambassador and that was something that really interested you and that's what you wanted to make your research project was like, how do I create, you know, policy change in local government, then that I think would be totally supported. But yeah, at this stage, no, that's not something that we've kind of engaged with.
Yep, I agree with Roy on that. Absolutely. You know, it started off with 2 ambassadors, then we went to 3. We've got 4 ambassadors coming this year. So again, as Roy said, you develop and you come up with your own conceptual ideas about your research project. And if it's something that you wish to do, then it can be one of your projects. You can remember it is, you know, 2 days a week. So you've got to be realistic about your time. There are some joint projects that the ambassadors do. There's a lot of panels. We have quite a few partners. So it's within a certain limit, you know, we operate, but nothing's off the table. It's just time and resources.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. Sorry, Colton, I was just going to add to that. There's an opportunity for us to work with businesses and other allies through our sponsorship. So that's another way to have organisations support what we do, because it is about increasing what we do and the longevity of the programme as well. So, and big organisations can certainly help and support us with those activities. And it's a way of getting the word out to wider organisations in terms of what we do as well. So we're trying to come from all different directions with the programme. But as Colton rightly says, we're a small team, and within the team, it's a small time. It's, limited time in terms of what we can do. But yeah, nothing's off the table, and wherever we can spread the word, we're certainly doing it.
I might add one thing to that, if that's okay, if we've got time. And this is back on the sort of businesses as well, in that the Bristol Green Capital Partnership is a network of over 1,000 organisations now of all different sectors, private businesses, charities, different types of organisations. And I think they are one of the audiences, but even beyond that, of businesses and organisations who want to be part of ensuring that the city's transition to become carbon neutral is just and fair, is going to benefit everyone equally. So in terms of an audience, those sorts of businesses and governments are bodies and organisations who this project wants to influence and share best practice with, and wanting to influence them to adopt more inclusive policies and more inclusive working practices, so that the participation of all communities in Bristol becomes easier to access, and so that those businesses and organisations can represent the priorities of all communities as well. So that's just a few thoughts on that. We just had one more question that was about the process and the timeline, so I'll just quickly answer that. It's not an exact date at the moment because we don't have a date firmed up for the interviews yet. It will probably be about 3 or 4 days from the deadline to find out if you have been shortlisted. And after the workshop, we'd aim to get back to people no later than a week after that interview. So we've put in the start date for ambassadors as the 15th of September, although we understand that if we're a little bit late on appointing, there might be a sort of month's notice period someone might have to work, so we can be a little bit flexible on that as well, but the start date we're aiming for is 15th of September.
Thank you for that, Vicky. And yes, I'm just picking up quickly. Is it Iffy? Yes, you've lived in Bristol but recently moved away. Can you still apply? If you are down in Bristol, obviously if you're based in London, it may be a bit far to converse, even though we are using Zoom. But what we tend to do with the ambassadors, we like to build a team. So we like the ambassadors to work quite closely together and meet up on a regular basis, so that they can plan and schedule their broadcast programs, or just to talk and discuss ideas and sitting on panels. So that would be a key factor, that you would be spending time within the Bristol area or Bath, but a close kind of area within that. I think we're running out of time now. Any other questions?
Hi, I've got a question, but I'm taking a while to type. Do you mind if I ask it?
Yep.
Thank
Introduce
you.
yourself.
Hi, my name's Rosina. It's really beautiful to be in this space. Thank you for this. I just wanted to ask, with regards to the research project, what sort of support does the ambassador receive? Like, for example, are there workshops where they're introduced to certain research methods or approaches? And does it have to be all like very academic sort of research, like university level? Thank you.
Who'd like to answer that question?
You were pointing that way.
Being one of the
I would just, yes, so there's support from the University of Bristol. Manu, who was on that film, does lots of kind of community research himself. He's a bit of an expert. He runs workshops on community action research and sort of the methodologies behind that. Stuff like what evaluation techniques to use. So yeah, there is lots of training and support around that area, and it definitely doesn't need to be in any way, quote unquote, like academic research. I mean, you know, I'm making a podcast. That probably tells you all you need to know about it. I will probably, you know, I'll probably write a little bit about it again, but in a non-academic way. So no, it definitely doesn't need to be sort of formalized in any way. And yes, there is support and training around stuff like how you do it, what are the best techniques, all those kind of things. Olivia, Asia, anything you jump in with that?
Yeah, I think you covered it all. And also Catherine from University of Bristol. I had a training with her, which is cover everything about the research, how we can do it from the scratch. So yeah. Every support is there.
So does that mean that the way you present it, you can present it in so many different ways as well? Like, for example, your podcast could be seen as almost your final product of presenting your research, or the way you can present it. It doesn't have to be just a written thing, or
it doesn't have to be a bound dissertation.
Yeah.
No, not at all. And I think hopefully part of what I produce will also be, the fact that some spoken word artists or poets will produce something, and I can sort of wrap that together with it, or images, and all of that forms part of it. So no, it definitely doesn't need to be just, or maybe even shouldn't be just a dry document. It should be kind of, I think, more living and breathing than that.
Yeah, just to add, so there is a written piece, and that's for the National Lottery, but that's very minimal. So it's about however you want to. And I think with what I was saying is however it can be valuable to the community that it's serving. So I've answered the question like that, like what is useful for the people I'm talking to and the people I want to help to have, and that's probably very rarely a 100-page report on something. So that's how I thought about it.
Okay, thank you, ambassadors, and thank you all for attending. It's now 7:27, so I'm just going to be rounding up. Don't forget, the deadline for the application is the 3rd of August, so please do apply. Go to www.bit.ly/black green recruitment 2021. You can also access it via Regima Radio and also Bristol Green Capital Partnership as well. So easy enough to do. Please do apply. If you want any more information, please get in contact with us. We're quite happy to respond to you. And hopefully you've learnt a few things today. And as I say, we're here, come and have a chat, and we're happy for varied different groups of people to apply for this. As I say, it's 4 positions, so please, go out there, submit. We'd like to see you and like to chat to you.
Carl, can I just jump one? It was just to Iffy, I hope I'm saying your name right in the chat, which is you had a question about being Bristol based or not. And I would just say, if you do have questions about that, just do what Carlton says and start a conversation. I mean, if you're in Bristol 5 days a week and you're somewhere else 2 days a week, there might just be a conversation to be had about, what's possible and what isn't possible. So I just didn't want you to be deterred from exploring it and making an application or whatever. So yeah, have a conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Roy. I think that Vicky, do we have the website that we can leave up there? Somebody want to have a look?
Yeah, I'll start that video now. Thanks, Carlton. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all for attending. I look forward to hearing from you all.
This is the new Black and Green Ambassadors website. If you want to know more, please visit us. Get to know us better with our individual profiles. There's also news and a blog which keep you up to date with what we're up to, things we're thinking, and plans for the future. You can also catch up on our monthly radio show, which has some great tunes and where we chat about some exciting topics. Most importantly, join our community and connect with us. Become our partner. Give us a shout on social media. What are you waiting for? Search Black and Green Ambassadors.